I'm Colin Genge, and my company's name is RetroTec Inc. That's a U.S. company. It's currently in and around Everson, Washington. I say that because we're actually halfway between Lyndon, which is a very, very small town, and Everson, which is a small town. We have a very big facility there. We also have another company that's a Canadian company called RetroTec Limited that is doing most of the product development work, and that's where I work. I've spent probably 20 years or so working on the American side, and now I'm mostly working on the Canadian side and doing a lot of traveling back and forth. I started in 1980 with Brendan Reed, and we started a company that was doing retrofit, and then we went into door fans because we needed one for ourselves. So we started building them, and people wanted to buy them, and that's where I came in. I started calibrating our first door fan at the National Research Council, and things just kind of moved on from there. We've gone from Ottawa to Bellingham to Everson, Washington. Well, we specialized in some of the more advanced applications. There was a big dip in the energy conservation market for about 10-15 years or so. And we started specializing in fire suppression and containment, specialized applications, large building testing. We started doing large building testing applications in the mid-'80s, actually, looking at buildings from the inside, like one component at a time, and then it started to expand it out to larger and larger pieces of buildings until, say, about 10 years ago, we developed equipment specifically for testing large buildings for the UK. And now probably 75% of the buildings in the UK are tested with our high power fans in multiples of 3 or 6 or sometimes even more. Well, we do all of our manufacturing in Everson, Washington, and there's around 40 to 50 people that work there. We have a fairly large facility, and we have a lot of subcontractors all over the place that manufacture various components for us. Some of it's manufactured in Canada, but I would say probably 90% of it's manufactured in the U.S. Everything's assembled in the U.S., calibrated in the U.S., checked out there. I personally live on the Canadian side, and I take care of product development and the general direction the company goes, and kind of keep a handle on the sales efforts and so forth. So we have a staff up there of around 15 or so that handle sales and tech support and so on. Well, originally we were located in Canada. We started out in Ottawa and moved to Vancouver, and the real estate there is very expensive, so I wanted to buy a building, and I could buy one in Bellingham at a quarter of the cost for a much bigger building. So I did that and wound up getting a bigger and bigger and bigger building, and started working down there as well. It just seemed to be more convenient. So the American market was more favorable from a labor standpoint, and also from a, I guess, a building standpoint, real estate standpoint. So actually, one of the craziest things that I heard about was people are normally used to testing buildings from the inside. So we have a red tube that goes through the red panel that senses the pressure on the outside. So they're used to the idea that the red tube goes outside. So this one time someone was doing a test, actually more than one time, it's happened more often than that they're testing from the outside. So since they know that the red tube has got to end up outside, they say, well, I got the fan turned up full speed and the panels are blowing out of the door and the gauge is something wrong with it, it won't measure anything. So I asked him where the red tube was. He said, well, it's outside. And in fact, one time I had a person pass it through the panels and come back outside again so that they could have the familiarity with it going through the panel, but then coming back outside so that the tube ended up where he thought it should end up. I once had somebody that had the equipment mounted in a closet, and they were trying to test their room and wondered why the room or the building was so tight. So it didn't occur to them that the air had to go someplace. So I was astonished when he told me how tight the building was. It seemed impossible, and then I discovered after several long-winded tech support questions that he was actually testing the closet, but didn't really realize it. We spent a lot of time creating videos on the use of our equipment, quick guides, and we like to think that you can take one of our quick guides and use any one of our systems in probably an hour or so without getting any input from outside. So we spent a huge amount of effort in developing quick guides that are easy to understand, easy to follow, and some you can keep with the equipment in case you happen to lose the instructions or forget about the instructions. Well, I think the importance of pressure testing or measuring the leakage of residential dwellings really comes down to providing some kind of a yardstick for the people who are doing the air sealing. Air sealing work without measurement is really totally ineffective, and one of the analogies I like to create is the blind painter. We hire the blind painter, puts on the blindfold, and away he goes. He thinks he's doing a great job. He's painted over the windows and the cat and everything else. It's only when you take the blindfold off and you can see what you're doing that you can see the effects of your work. Similarly, when people are measuring the results of their air sealing efforts, they realize that we spent a day sealing these cracks for no reduction. We found one bypass in the attic, or one plumbing stack in the attic. We sealed it and we got a 25% reduction. Guess what? We're going after those first next time. So it's a fantastic learning tool. It also creates a kind of a competitive situation where people are proud of the fact that they can get big reductions in short periods of time. So it's a learning tool first time around, and it keeps people in the game because it makes very difficult work, which is air sealing, seem fun, and it really attracts us to that whole competition thing that everybody reacts to in a positive way. I think it's quite possible to reduce our energy consumption for transportation, for buildings by 90% and not really affect our quality of life at all. It's just a matter of whether or not we're motivated to do that. Right now we're motivated to dig resources out of the ground, whether it be gas, oil, or whatever, and consume them as much as possible or as quickly as possible. And we consider that to be positive growth. If we changed the definition of positive growth and changed the definition to say it's the use of the least amount of energy or the least amount of resources for the maximum benefit, then everything would change. Right now our economy is geared towards consumption, and we think of that as being a good thing. I live on a boat, and I know that I can go away for several weeks, and I can gather enough energy from the sun to have a great lifestyle. I can play movies at night. I can do all kinds of great things and not use very much energy at all. So it's possible when we think of ourselves as being a self-contained entity, and we start getting conscious of what's going in and what's going out, to really vastly reduce our consumption. We just don't think it's possible because there's not a very big, or there is no really big corporate interest in reducing energy, and there is a big corporate interest in using up energy. So it's only at a time when that changes that we're going to get that 90% reduction in the use of fossil fuels and other resources. I guess for me personally, what my contribution would be to take what I know and give it to the next generation of up-and-coming, enthusiastic, energy-conserving, smart, intelligent, creative young people so they can go to the next step. It was my assumption when I got into this business in 1980 that, of course, we would want to reduce our energy consumption and our dependence upon foreign oil. That only makes sense. I've been surprised that it's taken 30 years and we haven't gotten to anywhere near what I thought we would get to in 1985. So obviously these things take a multi-generational approach, and everybody has to be in on this in order for that to happen. As far as new products are concerned, I don't think I have anything really revolutionary to offer at this point, except to continue to refine our products to make them as easy to use as possible and to really fulfill the need of the market. So we're constantly searching to find out what does the market really need our products to do, and then to fulfill that. And we have had a constant ongoing product development program going since the mid-80s. Either I don't get it right in the first case or I'm never satisfied, but I'm constantly developing new products and trying new things and so forth in order to make our products as good as possible. Well, I think it would be hard for me to let this go after spending 30 years on it. So, I think any kind of retirement would have to include me being involved in some way, because really, in a lot of ways, it's our work which kind of demonstrates the value of our lives and so forth. So, without having that, I don't think that any kind of retirement would be that much fun. I actually did retire about 30 years ago for 2 years and sailed around on my boat, and actually I found it very boring. So I would like to have something in the background that I was working on so I could keep my creative mind going. And I think I could be more creative if I didn't have to go through the day-to-day chores of just keeping everything going. But as far as what I would do, I'd probably go on a few sailing trips, maybe sail up to Alaska, go on some of the great hikes in New Zealand, Milford Sound, that kind of thing, visit some of those countries that I've always wanted to go and see, and spend some more time getting involved in cultural things and the arts. Like I think that the arts are really key to exploring who we are as individuals, whether it be music or dance or art or canvas or sculpture or whatever. I think that's what really grounds us as a person, and I think that's ultimately where a lot of our creative juice comes from, is from the artistic community. Even though I'm very steeped in the engineering side, there's kind of a resonance back and forth between art and science. Well, I live on a boat, and I have a rowboat attached to the stern, and I can plop it in the water in 30 seconds. I'd like to say I go every day, but I probably go a couple times a week. Canoeing, kayaking, play a little bit of poker in my spare time, and go to the gym and read about science that I find totally fascinating. I'd say those are the main things. Go on the odd hike here and there. I live in Vancouver, which is, of course, right in the mountains, so there's a lot of opportunities to do that as well. But I really enjoy working with the people at Saturn. I think that they're also a very creative bunch, and we have a lot of synergy between us and so forth. So I'm expecting that we're going to have a good relationship going forward. And it's my philosophy that the more people that we have in this energy efficiency market pushing in the same direction, the better it's going to be for everybody. So I really welcome those kind of opportunities to be creative with other groups that have skills that we don't have.